Namaskar friends, welcome to the channel JIB and CIB Made Simple. Today in this video we are going to discuss memory based question along with explanation for the examination of digital banking which was held on 14th March 2026. So let's get started. So you will be able to see what type of question have appeared in the examination, what are the most important topics and what that should be covered. And if you want to see the earlier previous year question videos, you can check out the link in the description section. And I request you to please try the question on your own first and then see the explanation. So this entire content with PDF is available on our course in the app. You can check out the app link in the description section of the video. So the first question is, a retail banking is considering migrating its legacy physical data center to a virtualized server environment. What does it mean? It means retail bank want to shift from old physical data center to a virtualized server environment. So beyond the immediate reduction in hardware procurement cost, which of the following represent a primary operational advantage of virtualization? So the question is asking, apart from saving hardware cost, what is the key business continuity plan, that's called BCP, advantage of virtualization? So basically the question is about the operational advantage of virtualization. So option they have given that it eliminates the need for periodic data backup by storing all the information in a virtual state. B says it allows for faster disaster recovery by enabling virtual machine image to be easily moved or restored to a different physical hardware. C say that it increases the physical security of the data center by reducing the number of employees required to manage the server. D say it automates all the day-to-day banking transaction, thereby removing the possibility of human error in accounting. So friends, let me explain what is the benefit of having this virtualization, because this question have been appeared in the back-to-back two examination. So imagine that your bank has all the data and application running on a big physical server. So your bank has all data and application running on big physical server, like keeping everything in a fixed steel cupboard. So suppose if one cupboard break, suppose what happened that if one cupboard break, okay, so what happened, you cannot move the content quickly. You need the same type of cupboard, same size, same hardware, right? So since one cupboard break, so what it required? It required same size, same hardware, right? And it make the disaster recovery slow and painful. So obviously this breaking of one cupboard make disaster recovery painful. Not only painful, it make it slow. Fine. Now think of virtualization. So virtualization, you know what, when I say this word virtualization, so what is the meaning of this? So virtualization means putting everything inside the digital suitcase. So whatever you have, right, whatever you have, you are putting inside where? You are putting inside the digital suitcase, right, instead of fixed cupboard. So you might have heard the name of virtual machine. So let me write down in the short. When I say virtual machine or VM, right, VM is like a suitcase containing the, so VM is like a suitcase. This contains the operating system, this contains the apps, this contains the data, etc. So this suitcase can be picked up and moved to any compatible server. So friends, virtual machine is like a suitcase containing the operating system, apps and data, right? So that is virtual machine, and this suitcase can be picked up and moved to any compatible server instantly, right? So you can pick up this suitcase and it can be moved to any server instantly. And also not only that, you can take a snapshot, you know, this snapshot act like a photo of the entire system at a moment. It act like a photo of what? Photo of the entire system at a moment in the time. Suppose original server fail, you can open the suitcase on another machine and start working again, right? So we are talking about virtual machine. Virtual machine is like a suitcase. It contains operating system, app and data, and you can pick the suitcase and move to any compatible server instantly. And you can also take a snapshot, and this snapshot act like a photo of the entire system, right? This snapshot act like a photo of the system at a moment in a time. If the original server fail, you can open the suitcase on another machine and start working. So this give bank a huge advantage in the BCP. Obviously it's kind of, you know, huge advantage, right? Now if you if you look at the option, so I think yes, option number B is the correct one. It allows for faster disaster recovery by enabling virtual machine image to be easily moved or restored to a different physical hardware, right? So we are talking to the context of business continuity plan, right? So business continuity plan, allow for faster disaster recovery. That's the very primary advantage of virtualization, right? So if you look at the other option number A says that, you know, no need for backup, right? Actually, you know, virtualization does not remove the need for backup. Even virtual machine can get corrupted sometimes. You know it obviously that this kind of virtual machine also, you know, they can get corrupted or they can get attacked by the ransomware. Yes, they are susceptible to this ransomware attack, right? So backup is very much essential. So option number A is wrong, right? What about C? It says, you know, better physical security. It increases the physical security. So what do you think about it? So, you know, virtualization may reduce hardware, but increased security is only an indirect effect. So basically this is talking about security. Suppose we are increasing security, this is the kind of, you know, indirect effect, right? It is not a direct BCP advantage. So option number C is wrong. What about D? It says automate banking transaction. So virtualization has nothing to do with automation of the banking operation. That is the job of software. That is the job, that is not the job of server. So it has nothing to do with automation. That is the job of software, right? So the option number D is wrong. So what we learned is that, you know, there is a memory trick using which you can remember the entire scenario that we have discussed so far. So what is the memory trick? It says that, you know, lift and shift is equal to dr gift. Yes, lift and shift is equal to dr gift. So what I mean to say that if a system can be lifted means what? If a system can be moved. So what we have to lift? We have to lifting the system. If the system can be lifted or if the system can be shifted means restored. So if the system can be lifted, the system can be shifted easily, right? So it is a great for disaster recovery, right? So when I say this virtualization, it means two things. So virtualization means lift and shift. That's the peculiarity of virtualization. Virtualization means lift and shift. Lift means, you know, move. System can be moved or system can be restored, right? And lift and shift ensure faster DR, and faster DR ensure, you know, strong BCP. So lift and shift, you know, dr gift, and dr is faster, disaster recovery is faster, so business continuity plan is strong. So just remember lift and shift, dr gift. So what we learned from the discussion is that, you know, this virtualization decouples operating system and app from the physical hardware, and you can run virtual server on any compatible machine. Virtual machine images and snapshot allow quick restoration after failure. And the virtualization does not remove backup. Virtualization does not automate banking operation. And, you know, this entirely dramatically improve the business continuity and disaster recovery. Now question number 2 on your screen. Very good question. So it is asking you, in the context of modern financial crime, which scenario best illustrate the concept of cyber mugging? So they have given you the 4 options. What are the options? A hacker gain access to a bank main server using an SQL injection to drain multiple dormant accounts over several months. B says a fraudster create a spoofed website that look like a legitimate banking portal to trick user into entering their login credential. Option C, a criminal uses physical intimidation or coercion to force a victim to unlock their smartphone and transfer funds via mobile banking app on the spot. Option D, a botnet is used to launch a DDoS attack on a bank website to ransom the institute for cryptocurrency. So these are the 4 options that they have provided to the cyber mugging. Please pause the video, think about the answer. For such kind of previous year memory based question along with theory and MCQs for your certification examination, you can check out our course on the app. In this course, what you get previous year questions, 100 plus MCQs with answer, digital banking content which is arranged module wise. There are 5 modules. Inside each module you get unit wise content. Inside each unit wise content you get separate theory, separate MCQs PDF. So all this entire content will help you to get grasp over the subject, and you can easily clear the examination on the very first attempt, as it has been as many aspirants have cracked. So you can check out the link in the description section, or you can WhatsApp me on the number shown on the screen. Back to this particular question. So basically the question is regarding the cyber mugging. So what the cyber mugging is all about, let me explain. So, you know, cyber mugging, you can think of it like a digital version of, you know, street robbery. So you might have seen some street robbery, right? So the digital version is called cyber mugging. But instead of snatching your wallet, the criminal snatches your mobile banking money. What criminal snatches? They snatches the mobile banking money, right? Mobile banking money that is being snatched, right? So how do they snatch it? So the attacker, what they do, they physically threaten or physically coerce the victim and force them. So suppose this is an attacker, right? This is the net hacker. What they do? They physically threaten or physically coerce whom? The victim, right? Victim, and forces them to unlock their phone. Yes, the attacker forces them to unlock their phone, plus open the banking app, plus authenticate their face ID or fingerprint or passcode, right? And make an instant money transfer, and ultimately make an instant money transfer. So that is what they can do using this cyber mugging. So an attacker, again I'm repeating, he physically threatened or coerces the victim to unlock their phone, open their banking app, authenticate using face ID, make an instant money transfer. So this bypass all the cyber security protection, because even the strongest encryption become useless when the criminal forces you to unlock the device. So that's why if you look at the option number C is the correct. This is what we call cyber mugging. So if you look at the other option they have provided, then option number A says back-end hacking. This is called something we call back-end hacking. What is back-end hacking basically? So this is a traditional cyber crime, no physical force, no immediate transfer, not cyber mugging. What about option B? So option B is just like fraudster created a spoofed website. So that is called phishing website. That is called phishing website. That this is deception. This is social engineering. This is not physical threat. And option number D is talking about the DDoS attack. DDoS attack, right? This is talking about the DDoS attack. So it is cyber extortion, not mugging. See why I'm talking about all the option, because in the upcoming examination you may get a question regarding phishing, you may get a question regarding DDoS attack. So you should know from a single question we are covering 4 different concepts, and that is the peculiarity of our session. In every session we try to explain each and every option. Now memory trick to remember this mugging. So once you go through this memory trick, it will remain ingredient in your mind for the lifetime. So what is the trick? So you can remember this mugging like muscle plus mobile money, muscles plus mobile money. So what it means, that mugging always involve muscle means what? Physical threat. Yes, there's a physical threat. And cyber mugging involve muscle plus mobile banking. So if there is physical force plus immediate digital transfer, right? See what I'm telling you, that suppose there is two things. There is a physical force, not only physical force, in addition to physical force there is an immediate digital transfer. So these two things combined, then you can think of the cyber mugging. You can think of the cyber mugging, right? So cyber mugging combined physical coercion with instant digital theft. And you know what happened? That criminal forces the victim to unlock their smartphone and transfer the fund. It bypassed cyber security because the victim unlocked the device voluntarily. Phishing, hacking, DDoS, these are not cyber mugging. Now question number 3 of today's session, let's have a look. So basically it is taking about TAT. So what the question is all about? See, a customer tried withdrawing 5,000 rupees from a non-home bank ATM. The ATM failed, but the account got debited. As per the RBI turnaround time, in how many days must the bank auto reverse the amount, and what penalty apply if there is delay? So that's the question. Option A say T plus 3 days, penalty of $50, 50 rupees, sorry, not dollar, actually rupees. Then option B say T plus 5 days, 100 rupees. T plus 7 days, 100 rupees. And D say T plus 2 days. So what do you think about TAT and what is the maximum penalty? So let me explain what this question is all about. See, imagine that you go to another bank ATM. This is you. And you go to SBI ATM. And you have bank account in BOI, let's suppose. Okay. So you enter 5,000 rupees. Fine. And the machine failed. But you know what happened? That money got debited. Money got debited. Now the big question is, how much time does the bank get to return your money automatically? How much time does the bank get to return? So RBI has made this very clear that there is something called harmonization of TAT. Harmonization of turn around time. Right. And customer compensation. So what is the timeline? See, the rule is that for failed ATM transaction, suppose there failed ATM transaction, then TAT is turnaround time is T plus 5 days. So what is the T? What is the meaning of T here? So T here means date of transaction or day of transaction. So the bank get 5 calendar day maximum. And if they still don't return the money, in that case penalty is how much? 100 rupees per day penalty of delay. And the bank must pay this automatically without you filing a complaint, as long as you have not already gone to the ombudsman. So if you look at the option that they have provided, yes, B is the correct one. B is the correct one. 100 rupees penalty per day of delay and T plus 5 days the maximum time. Right. So remember, how you can remember it? Let me tell you the memory trick. So you can remember it like this: 5-star ATM rule. 5-star ATM rule. What it means? That whenever ATM failure is there, 5-day return. 5-star, this way you can remember, 5-day return plus 100 rupees per day burn penalty. Fine. So 5 return in 5 day, and if it failed to return in 5 day, then 100 rupees per day, penalty will be imposed. Right. That's called harmonization of TAT and customer compensation. Now let's switch our focus to the question number 4 of today's session, which is on your screen. It's pertain to NACS debit. Right. So basically what happened, there is an insurance company and it collect monthly premium from 10,000 customers. Fine. Using NACH debit. Fine. Now what is the correct technical flow and mandate requirement? Technical flow and the mandate requirement. So option they have given that a transaction result in a single debit to the sponsor bank and multiple credit to the destination bank, and no prior physical or e-mandate is required. B says transaction result in multiple debit to various destination bank account and single consolidated credit to the sponsor bank. C says a sponsor bank directly debit the customer account without involving the destination bank, provided the amount is under 2 lakh rupees. And D says NACS debit is strictly used for push transaction where the institution send fund to multiple beneficiary such as salary or subsidy payment. Very good question regarding the end debit file. So let's talk about the rule, what NACS debit is all about. So let me explain. So you know very well that this NACH debit, you can think of it like pull money system. This is a kind of pull money system. Here the insurance company want to pull monthly premium from thousands of customer account automatically. So suppose this is the insurance company. They want to pull amount from where? Thousands of customer instantly. So what they do? So there is something called a sponsor bank. Right. So this is sponsor bank, what they do? They upload the debit file. First of all, they will upload the debit file. Now you may ask, sir, what is the meaning of this debit file? Let me explain. See, debit file means what? That this contain customer account number. This contain amount, how much amount to debit. This contain mandate reference. Right. So sponsor bank is the insurance company bank. So which kind of bank is this? Obviously remember, this is sponsor bank is an IC bank, insurance company bank. Now the second step is NPCI process the digital file. NPCI process the file. That's called debit file. So NPCI is like the middleman who check the file and distribute the debit instruction. So this is like a middleman. Now then step number 3, what happened? That multiple debit from customer bank. So multiple debit occur, which means all the customer have account in different bank and these bank are called destination bank. So obviously this is suppose customer 1, this is customer 2, this is customer 3, this is customer 4. They have account in the different bank and those bank are called destination bank. So multiple debit happen from this destination bank. So what happened? This NPCI, it send instruction and immediately destination bank debit each customer account, and obviously finally money is collected. Fine. And one consolidated credit to the insurance company. So all the collected premium are added together, and last step, I think it is the 4th step. So this consolidated, right, premium and they are deposited at the sponsor bank. So the flow is many debit to one credit. That is what is happening. Many customer account are getting debited and it is getting credited to one account, that's the account of a sponsor bank. So now if you look at the option that they have provided, so I think this is exactly what option number B say, that transaction result in multiple debit to various destination bank account and single consolidated credit. Exactly, option number B is the correct one. Right. And one more thing I want to tell you, that please remember it, that NACS debit cannot run without customer authorization. See, for NACS debit to run, this is a very important thing. What is important? Customer authorization. This is a very, very important. Right. So customer must give the physical mandate. Please remember, customer must give the physical mandate. Not only physical mandate, they should also give an e-mandate. Right. Which is a kind of digital consent. E-mandate, it is a kind of digital consent. Right. So bank must register this in the MMS. So please remember this, that bank must register in the MMS. What is MMS? MMS is called mandate management system. Bank must register in the mandate management system. So customer must give the physical mandate, e-mandate. Physical mandate is a kind of paper-based mandate. E-mandate is an electronic digital mandate. So without mandate, no debit is allowed. Fine. So if you look at the option number A says that no mandate is needed. There you can see now, no prior physical or no, that's wrong. Mandate is required. 100% wrong. Mandate is must for all the recurring deposit. What about option C? Option C is that a sponsor bank directly debit the customer account. No. It is impossible. A sponsor bank cannot touch other bank customer account. And what does option number D say? That NACH debit is strictly used for push transaction. No. See, please try to understand the difference between pull transaction and push transaction. So this NACH credit, if I talk about, suppose on the opposite side we have NACH credit. Suppose in the examination you get NACH credit. What is NACH credit? So it is instructions send money like salaries, subsidies, etc. Institution, like your salary is credited to your account, multiple account of the employee using the NACH credit. So institution send money. But here we have the premium collection, and the premium collection happened via NACH debit. So to remember it, I made a memory trick. What is the memory trick? So whenever you see this word NACH debit, think of many one plus mandate done. These two are the prime requirement. So many one means what? So many to one, not like that. Many to one. Many to one means many accounts are debited and they are credited to a single account. And mandate must be done beforehand. Okay, so that is the kind of NACH. So remember, NACH debit is a kind of pull system. It is a kind of pull system, and NACH credit is a kind of push transaction. So debit file, who upload the debit file? The first of all, there is a sponsor bank. I told you the flow. So first step, what happened? That is a sponsor bank upload the debit file. Right, they upload the debit file, and this file consists of how much amount, how much account, which account, mandate, etc. Then debit file is uploaded by the sponsor bank. NPCI, process the file. It's like a middleman, and multiple debit happen from destination bank, and NACH credit is push, right? One to many. So many to one or one to many. That's the point, right? Many to one means NACH debit. One to many means NACH credit, like the salary payment. Now, very good question we have. The immediate question that we have. So basically, the customer is paying a utility bill. Here is what the question is. What it is all about, the customer is making payment for a utility bill using what? IMPS. That's called immediate payment service. So which option correctly explains? So friends, customer is paying utility bill using IMPS. So which option correctly explain push versus pull transaction in terms of who initiate and what credential are used? So option number A says that in push transaction, merchant initiate the request using customer OTP. In pull transaction, customer initiate the payment. B says in a push transaction, customer initiate the payment, and in a pull transaction, the merchant initially request through their website. C says that both push and pull transaction are merchant initiated, but a push transaction require an Aadhaar number while a pull transaction require an IFSC code. And D says a push transaction require pre-registered direct debit mandate to imply consent, whereas a pull transaction has implied consent because it is customer initiated. So very good question, and it check whether you understand the push versus pull transaction clearly or not. Right. So to understand this push versus pull, you can think of money like a parcel. Right. So one analogy I can give you so that to understand it very clearly, what is the difference between push and pull transaction? You can think of money like a parcel. Okay. Think of money like a parcel. So when I say push means what? Customer pushes money. This is the customer. They are pushing money from their side. Right. So like I send you the money. So here the customer start the payment from their own phone and app. So what does the customer need? So obviously to make the push transaction, customer need mobile number, customer need MMID, money identifier, right? So merchant money identifier. So that's then the customer also need own MPIN. Yes, he need the MPIN to approve the payment. So what is the peculiarity of the push transaction? That this is customer initiated plus merchant MMID they need, mobile money identifier plus customer MPIN is required. These three things are required to initiate the push transaction. Now what about the pull transaction? So pull transaction you can think of like merchant pull money from the customer account. That is called pull transaction. Right. So let me explain what the pull transaction is all about. So pull transaction, the merchant initiate. Merchant pull the money from the customer account. So here the merchant start the request from their portal or website. So if they require customer mobile number, they require MMID, right? Customer mobile number and MMID. Customer verify the pull request. Right? Using OTP. Here MPIN is not required. Here OTP is needed. So pull means what? Merchant initiated plus customer MMID plus OTP authorization. Now if you look at the option, that is, if you look at the option number A, says that push transaction merchant initiate. No, that's wrong. In push transaction, customer initiate. B says that in a push transaction, the customer initiate from their own device using the merchant credential and their own MPIN. Yes, correct. B is the perfectly correct. C says that both push and pull transaction are merchant initiated. No, that's wrong. Because push and pull is not defined by identifier. It defined by who start the transaction. So in the case of push, customer start, and in case of pull, merchant start. What about D? D says that a push transaction require a pre-registered direct debit mandate to imply consent. So mandate are needed for automatic recurring pull payment, not push. So this is a wrong consent logic. D is also incorrect. So one memory trick I can provide you so that you can remember it very clearly. So what is the memory trick? So remember, push you can remember it like MPIN, and pull you can remember it like OTP. Fine. So push means what? Push simply means customer push. Push means customer push using own MPIN. And pull means what? Pull means merchant push. Right, merchant pull. How? Via OTP. Customer approve via OTP. That's the difference. Push and pull system. Right, I hope it is crystal clear. So PIN to push, right, and OTP to pull. So PIN is required for pushing and OTP is required for pulling. That's the difference. So push is customer initiated and pull is merchant initiated. This way you can jot down the difference between these two. Now let's there is a customer that they are doing the online card not present transaction, that is called CNP transaction, right, using the RuPay card. And how does RuPay Pay Secure implement two-factor authentication and compared to traditional password based system? That is what the question is all about. So option A says that factor 1 is a dynamic 1 OTP sent via SMS, and factor 2 is the physical scanning of the card QR code. Factor 1 involves security image selection and factor 2 involves the entry of a secured PIN. Factor 1 is a 16-digit card number and factor 2 is a 3-digit CVV code. And factor 1 is a biometric fingerprint scan and factor 2 is a voice recognition confirmation. So these are the options that they have provided. So a customer doing online card not present transaction, CNP transaction. So let me explain in the simplest word possible what this question is all about. See, when you do a RuPay card, right, when you use a RuPay card, right, suppose you use the RuPay card for what? For online transaction. Suppose you use a RuPay card for online payment. So the authentication process is slightly different from Visa and MasterCard. Yes, authentication process is slightly different from Visa and MasterCard. So, this RuPay Pay Secure, you might have heard the name of Pay Secure. So this RuPay Pay Secure was designed to be simple. It was designed to be simple than typical long password, and it was designed to be safe than traditional static for password, and it was designed to be easier for customer who struggle with alphanumeric password. So how two-factor authentication work in this case? So first of all, we have something called secure image selection, security image selection. Yes, security image selection. So what does this mean? That at the time of registration, the customer chooses a security image. Who chooses? Customer chooses. What? Security image. And during payment, right, during the course of payment, the system displays multiple image. Right, the system displays multiple image and user select the image they originally set. Right, system display multiple image. And what user do? User select the image out of them which they set. This proves that the page is genuine, not a phishing site, and the right customer is using the correct Pay Secure screen. So this is a unique RuPay feature. So this is the factor number 1, that's called security image selection. The second factor is something we called entering the PIN. Yes, this is the second factor. So the next, the customer enter a secure PIN. and this is via a randomized keypad. So this prevent the key logging. So since randomized keypad is there, so key logging chance is not there. Screen logging, this prevent screen logging, it prevent guessing of pattern. And unlike Visa, MasterCard, no complicated password is required. So that we can say that this particular RuPay facility is two-factor authentication, right? So two-factor authentication means first of all we have image, and second thing we have is the PIN. No password, no OTP. So if you look at the option that they have provided, so option number A says that OTP plus QR scan. That is what option number A is saying now. OTP plus QR scan. That's wrong. So RuPay Pay Secure does not require QR scanning, right? What about B? Secure image and PIN. Exactly, B is correct. What about C? C says that they are printed on the card. No, not a two-factor authentication. This does not satisfy RBI requirement of two independent factor. And D says that biometric plus voice recognition. See, RuPay Pay Secure does not use biometric or voice recognition. So just memory trick to remember this RuPay Pay Secure feature is, you can remember it like this: RuPay is equal to picture plus PIN. Picture plus PIN, right? So P2P. This way you can remember. Fine. So picture plus PIN, RuPay Pay Secure 2FA. This is easy to